Hello there, people of the internet. I was asked what my opinion on the AK-47 platform is, because there's a lot of information out there on it. I've covered the topic a bunch of times on the channel. I suppose for this video, I'm going to give my universal conclusion behind the AK-47 platform as a whole, and we're not talking about like the early AK-47s that are actually AK-47s. We're using the generic name AK-47 to cover basically all of the AKM platforms that are out there on the market. And we're specifically talking about ones chambered in 7.62x39 because that is by a huge margin what most of your AK-47s nowadays are going to be chambered in. Before I give this description of the AK platform, I'm going to tell you right now there's going to be exceptions to every rule. Whenever I talk about the capabilities of the AK, the upsides and the downsides, I get somebody that goes into the comments and they're like, oh, in cold weather they absolutely outshine everything else. And yeah, by all means, in cold weather, they would definitely do better than a lot of other things out there on the out there on the market right now. Or they'll tell me over there in I don't know if I'm allowed to say that country's name, but we're just gonna call it Uke. We're gonna call it Uke, right? Over there in the Uke conflict, AK-47s are being used en masse to great effect and fantastic. You know, that's by all means. That is an example of a country at a serious disadvantage using whatever it is that they can get their hands on. That is a really good example of it might not be the best, but it is available. That's one of the reasons why Mosin Nagant rifles are also being utilized over there. Not necessarily to great effectiveness, but they are being used over there. Now, the AK-47 platform as a whole, I think that for the average person, it is an adequate platform. Don't get me wrong, I'm going to be doing some bad-mouthing on the AK-47 in this video, but I think the platform itself as a whole for the average person is absolutely adequate. Now, whenever I say the average person, I'm not talking about your trained operator. I'm not talking about someone who has a lot of logistics backing him up in terms of giving him the capabilities to keep his firearms at like top physical peak condition. I'm talking about the average Joe, like say you and me, who probably doesn't even clean our firearms unless they start to jam up and give us problems, in which case we'll slather them down with some brake clean and some oil and call it a day. Not unless we fire corrosive ammo through it, which a lot of these old guns do take corrosive ammo. But there's a lot of upsides and a lot of downsides with the AK platform. I'm going to go ahead and say this right now. In a modern combat sort of situation, the AK-47 has been completely outshined by other things out there being used in warfare. I don't care how good the AK-47 has been in times, there are other things out there, I'm going to go ahead and say it right now, like the AR-15 that just do jobs better than the AK-47. The AR-15 with its lighter weight ammunition, and its superior ballistics out at longer distances than, say, the AK-47's 7.62x39. It's just a better option. And yes, you can touch out to longer distance with that 7.62x39 cartridge, but to do so, you're calculating several feet of drop, and you have to be doing it on a very still day, because that round is just completely bucked by the wind out past like 300 yards. 5.56 is also bucked by the wind, but not near as much as like the wind sail of a bullet that is the 7.62x39 cartridge. It's powerful, but 5.56 from a modern standpoint, if we're talking about appropriate ammunition, not necessarily green tips from an M4 barrel, it's adequate enough to be able to do a job. With modern body armor, which we're not really seeing in any modern conflict around the world just because it's not necessarily something that is all that available, modern body armor really is not all that prevalent on a modern battlefield, not unless we see two legitimate active militaries putting their best foot forward in an effort to be able to take the other one out. But we just don't see that going on right now. We see a lot of, say, 1970s style warfare going on, And whenever something modern age is introduced, that 1970 warfare is just completely outclassed and outdone. Like, for example, anyone running around with AKs with iron sights on any modern battlefield is going to be completely taken out by even just a couple of guys rocking, say, IR or night vision or something like that with some ARs, or, I don't know, insert your choice of other rifle here, to where they can touch out at longer distances and they can see these people at night. I don't know if you guys browse Twitter at all, but I browse a lot of war footage on Twitter, and one guy with night vision is capable of taking out a lot of people who just can't see because they don't have night vision. They're rocking guns with iron sights. It's a very, very effective means. And there's just other things out there that lend themselves to being more effective on a modern battlefield than just small arms in general. Like, for example, drones. Drones have been used to absolute devastating effectiveness over there in Ukraine right now. Personally, I think that drones make small arms like this completely obsolete. And the people that disagree with me, they'll tell me an occupying force needs small arms to hold that territory. Well, a single drone with a couple of mortars strapped to it can take out that occupying force basically immediately if all they have is something like this right here. Now, there's other options out there, like, say, shotguns and whatnot, but this isn't a video topic talking about drone defense. My point is, your AK and 7.62x39 is just severely outclassed on a modern battlefield with people rocking modern technology, especially if we're talking about, like, untrained conscripts that have been drafted into a military, going up against a modern military with modern firearms, with modern optics, modern capabilities of touching out to what would be considered modern warfare distances as of nowadays, and are using things besides just small arms, or are using things besides just calculating artillery rounds to be shoved into an area. Like, there's so much better stuff out there to conduct warfare besides just your AK platform. For the time period where this came out, it was phenomenal technology, but nowadays it's just not there. Now, all of that being said, there's so much more to firearms than going out into a modern battlefield. Like, for example, there's the sports aspect of it, or the recreation aspect of it, or the hunting aspect of it, or the frontiersman aspect of it, or the insert your choice of non-front line combat role going on, where a firearm is quite adequate and necessary. And the AK-47 for roles where you're not necessarily on a two-way range, dude, it is a phenomenal gun. Like, if you were to only have one rifle, and you're not going to be on the front lines of a modern battlefield going up against a modern military force, dude, this thing is absolutely fantastic. Like, if you were just an average Joe rocking a gun like this, most of your average Joes can't shoot beyond 300 yards anyway, and a 124 grain bullet moving at 2,400 feet per second, that's not exactly like 308 power, but that's a fair amount of power behind a cartridge. I'm willing to bet that cartridge can probably put down anything that you're going to find over here in North America. I don't think there's a single thing out there that maybe multiple rounds, or maybe proper bullet selection, like a proper bonded hunting round, or maybe a solid copper round or something like that. I'm willing to bet there's very little out there that the AK-47's 7.62x39 could handle. On top of that, we have external magazines. You can go out and get yourself a 5-round magazine for hunting purposes if you have some sort of regulation in your state. Or let's say that you want to use your AK for defensive purposes because you're not going up against a modern military force. You're just going to defend your household, your homestead, your wherever it is that you're at from whoever kicks in your door, whatever rapscallion decides themselves to put on their hood or a ski mask or something like that and kicking your door to try and steal your television or whatever it is, whatever it is that situation holds. Then you got yourself your standard capacity 30-round magazines, or even if you want to do something else, like, I don't know, set up a sentry, there's 100-round drums for these things that you can pop in there, and you know, that is a serious force to be reckoned with. Kind of throw it into an LMG-style role in the event that you find yourself needing to do that, which most of us definitely are not. Like, that would more or less be something for a cool factor. But the 7.62 by 39 has about the same energy and ballistic capabilities as that of a 30-30, and the 30-30 ruled the United States civilian gun market for a good number of decades, just because it was powerful enough and capable enough to do most of the things that most of the people need. And to have something like this right here, just this long stroke gas piston, very simple system where very, very little can go wrong with a rifle like the AK, the average person who's not going to be meticulously cleaning the firearm every 1,000 rounds or so, or 500 rounds, or however much it is that you would need to clean a rifle like, say, your AR, I'd say probably about every 1,000 rounds or so to keep these running completely reliable. You don't need to do that with the AK. You don't need to lube it. You don't need to do anything with it, really. Like this AK right here, I got no idea how many rounds I have in this thing. I've been shooting it for years. You guys have seen it on the channel. I don't think I've cleaned this thing a single time. And that's kind of funny bringing that up. I don't know. I'd guess anywhere from 7,000 to 10,000 rounds in this thing. See, normally whenever I buy ammo, I'll buy the 1,000 round bulk packages of them. But I've also got like SKSs and other AKs that I run this ammo through. But this, by a huge margin, is my primary rifle. And it's my primary rifle because we got this rail right here on the side of the receiver. And with this, you can throw a mount on this thing, so you can mount a scope or an optic or whatever it is that you want onto this rifle, and that greatly increases the capabilities of the platform. And something like that right there, having this separate mounting piece that is, you know, different from the receiver, you're not going to have, like, say, sniper precision accuracy out at long ranges, but it's going to be good enough for the average person. So in conclusion, the AK by modern standards and 7.62 by 39 just is not that great of a platform if we're talking about modern combat. There's better options out there, like say the AR-15 or the 5.45 Russian 7.62 or the Russian AK-74. God, there's so many different numbers that I gotta remember here. But there's lighter weight ammunition, lighter weight options out there that are going to essentially do the same job. Those lighter weight options are going to be easier to carry more ammunition. They're going to be more effective at longer ranges than something like the 7.62 by 39. This right here is just an antiquated platform with an antiquated cartridge. It's not obsolete by any stretch of the imagination, but I would say that it's leaning more into obsolescence. This platform right here with the cartridge and whatnot, more or less, has been overtaken by the AK-74 back whenever it was adopted in the mid-70s. So, against a modern military force, not a great option. There are better things that you can equip yourself with. However, for an average person, just say doing homesteading or home defense or someone who's not, you know, living and breathing firearms and they just need a rifle to be able to do a job. Dude, this right here is a really, really good option. You can't go wrong with something like that. So thanks for watching, folks. I appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below is a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. You guys go off. Have yourself a fantastic day. I'll see you on the next episode.
Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garrett. Shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.